What's goody good, guys? Prince Sports here. And we got our first team that's knocked out the playoffs in the first round, and that's none other than the Brooklyn Nets. Kevin Durant goes home fishing. Now, here's the thing. All right, I'm going to get into the game per se because I got more to break down on this. The role players for the Brooklyn Nets didn't show up for most of the game, but they did show up when they needed to be showed up the most, which was the fourth quarter. Okay, they did their share of clutch performances in the fourth quarter, and they carried Kyrie and Kevin Durant for the most part. And Kevin Durant didn't go without his first shot until after the first 7 minutes of the fourth quarter went by. That's when he finally took his first shot. All right, so he was missing in action for 7 minutes of the fourth quarter in an elimination game. If you're not going to shoot the ball, you better be on the other end playing defense. Now, the Brooklyn Nets stood no chance to beat the Boston Celtics if nobody was going to step up to be the best two-way player in the game. The problem is, all they wanted to do is play one end of the floor, offense. Nobody cared about defense. There's not a single player on this Brooklyn Nets team that plays defense, not a single one. All right, and for all you guys that sat there and said, well, he was on the Warriors, his defensive numbers was this, he stepped up. Well, where was this defense when it needed to be shown? Because the Boston Celtics got whatever they wanted, whenever they want. They could pound the ball in the post. They could shoot threes. The Brooklyn Nets really had no defense whatsoever. This reminded me of like professional basketball players playing against high school kids that just was undersized and couldn't play defense whatsoever. And Kevin Durant, I know here's another thing about stats. It's going to look like, hey, he dominated. He scored 30-plus points. He didn't, because when they needed him most, he didn't show up for the most part. Now, he did hit 2 clutch or timely shots in the fourth quarter, okay? That was big, but at the same time, this is an elimination game. You should have been the best player on both ends of the floor. And you're going to have to take that criticism. Because if this was LeBron James, this was anybody else, you would call them out for being the choke artist, empty stats. We've seen this plenty of times. I've seen games where superstar players look like on the stat sheet that they showed up, but when you watch the game, they didn't really have that much of an impact. Marcus Smart played great defense on Kevin Durant. The whole team played great defense on Kevin Durant and Kyrie. You see Jaylen Brown, a bigger defender, giving Kyrie Irving problems. So defense will win you games. And defense normally leads to offense, okay? That's why the Boston Celtics got what they want, because they shut you down on the defensive end. They got you tired. And when it was your turn to play defense, you got shut down. Now, as far for Kevin Durant being exposed this season, he's going to have to take that criticism, because with great power comes great responsibility. This was a guy that you said was the best player in the world for a lot of people. This guy that was supposed to be better than LeBron James. This guy is supposed to be the number one alpha, the number one reason why the Golden State Warriors got 2 more championships in the first place, which I kind of beg to differ. I think the Warriors would have been in the finals regardless, and anything could have happened. I'm not saying they could have beat the Cavaliers, but you never know. If they were up 3-1 on the Cavaliers, yes, I know they choked, but there's no telling that, hey, maybe they could get back in that position again. And I don't think they would have choked away a 3-1 lead again and again. You know, sooner or later they would have won. Okay, but with that being said, Durant definitely came up short. He definitely got exposed. Even Marcus Smart was looking at him and was like, damn, you know, I forced you to take that bad-looking 3. You know, it was like a floater, 3-point shot that he took, you know. And it is what it is, man. The Nets got to go back to the drawing board. I know Steve Nash is going to get fired. I'm going to talk about the team in general, but in his regards, they don't have that much guys that play defense anyway. You got Claxton that missed 10 free throws. What I told you about missing free throws, they're free for a reason. If you made most of those free throws, you guys would have probably won the game. Flat out. You know? But the Boston Celtics stopped Kevin Durant from being great. They stopped Kyrie Irving from being great despite one game. You know? So they really put the clamps on these guys. And that goes to show you 2 of the best so-called scorers in the game can't play on the other end of the floor, they're one-dimensional, this is what happens, okay? Because you can always do defensive schemes to give great offensive players problems. What can you do on the other end of the floor? You know, all teams that won championships played defense, and they had good offense. But main thing is the common denominator was that they all played defense. Now we're gonna get more into this, probably later, because Kevin Durant going home fishing, and this is another player that I know you're gonna pull up excuses, stats, and he did all he could do. Not really. He just got exposed. Because if he wanted to really put a mark on this series, he should have been the best player on the defensive end as well. If anything, you had another scorer with Kyrie Irving. If you was the guy that could put the defensive clamps on people, you guys would have won some games in this series. Period. You're the reason why you lost game one, because you caught daydreaming on defense, and you gave Jason Tatum a free lane to go to the basket and get a layup. It is what it is. Prince Sports out. Peace.